In a 4-hour pay-per-view, we got a 9-minute match for the TBS title, and that was Julia Hart versus Kris Statlander. But the journey towards that starts off with Willow Nightingale and Julia Hart. Okay, so the first match that Julia Hart had this week was with Willow. And Willow came down to the ring and she was bandaged up round her head and the eye. Poor Willow. I don't know who suggested that backstage, but whoever did needs a stern talking to. Anyhow, Willow was doing Brody King's bark and the crowd loved her. Another spot was that Brody King was distracting Willow and Julia Hart came from underneath the ring and chopped away her leg. I also liked the bit where Willow was in the turnbuckle and Julia Hart was about to do a cartwheel, but Willow came out and did the pounce. This match ended with Julia Hart on a top turnbuckle doing a standing moonsault onto Willow below. Afterwards, Julia Hart faced off with Kris Statlander, but Brody King was there to separate both of them. This is just a way to make Julia Hart, the Lady Taker, credible for Kris Statlander on the pay-per-view. Then on Rampage we got my favourite wrestler going up against Ruby Soho for the #1 contendership for the world title. Soho lost her last title match, to Kris Statlander, so wouldn't that move her down the rankings? But what really matters in AEW is whether you bring in the viewers. And I suppose Ruby Soho does. Wins and losses don't really matter in AEW anymore. I like the firefighters carry that Sheeta did on Ruby Soho, taking her up the ramp and then they both beat the 10 count. Soho bringing in the kendo stick and the referee then taking it away from her, and then when his back was turned, Soho was going to use the spray can. But the ref caught onto this and somehow there was a kerfuffle and he got injured. And Soho pinned my favourite wrestler for a 3 count, but it wasn't legit because there was no ref. Then never fear, Aubrey Edwards is here. She comes down to the ring and does count a 3 count. My favourite wrestler, Hikaru Shida, wins. Then after the bell, she faces off with Soraya, who of course she's going to lose to. I don't think Soraya's a particularly good champion, but then again she just probably brings in the numbers. Then we got Julia Hart again on Collision. This is so we can build her up as a credible threat so she can lose to Kris Statlander on the pay-per-view. And she was fighting Defy's champion Vert Vixen. And sadly for Vert Vixen, who I like, and the commentary said was similar in stature to Statlander, lost. This match ended in a standing moonsault from the top turnbuckle. Beautiful, and it sets up Wrestle Dream between Julia Hart and Kris Statlander, which of course was only 11 minutes in a 4-hour pay-per-view. And the final for this week's women's wrestling was at Wrestle Dream. And I think Statlander was the more confident out of the two. I'm not criticising at all, but I just thought Statlander executed her moves a bit more smoothly than Julia. Brody King was on the outside, kind of not getting involved, but he did distract Statlander at one point, allowing Julia to get back into the match. A fast-paced match. Some of the spots in this I liked. Abdominal stretch by Julia. Statlander's Blue Thunder Bomb. Julia missing the mist. Then Julia hitting her somersault from the top turnbuckle. It ended with Statlander hitting a tombstone and then a Sunday Night Fever. All this build for only kind of like 10-11 minutes. Shame really.